We can agree that alcoholism left untreated, it's suicide slowly. And by that, I mean it's a terminal illness. What leukemia patient wouldn't trade places with me in a heartbeat if it
Yeah.
only meant a little bit of work each week, going to a couple of meetings, reaching out to people, striving to be better with acts of service that can be as big as making coffee for the group or allowing people to go in front of me in rush hour traffic. Just little
That's
acts
right.
of service. I think that that person would trade places with me in a heartbeat.
I heard it through the grapevine.
Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine Half Hour Variety Hour featuring the collective voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am Olis, an alcoholic in Oakland, California.
Olis, don't lie to people. That's not where you are. Hey, everybody, I'm Sam. I'm an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
I was just trying to get close to you, Sam. I'm in LA.
Hi, I can see you from Palm Springs. I'm waving.
Yeah, hi there. So, Sam, we have a special guest to open up the show today. I'm really excited about. You're never going to guess who.
I'm scared.
He's scared.
I'm a little terrified.
Hello, all you alcoholics and alcoholic lovers all over the world. It's time to play Sobriety Squabble. Hi, I'm Sober Don Everyman from Centerville, Middleware, your Grapevine quiz master. It's deep into November and the holidays are fast approaching. Always a stressful time for everyone, but especially alcoholics. So I asked the Grapevine digital engagement editor, Julia D., to poll the 98 Grapevine Lavinia area chairs and alternate chairs for 7 things to do to stay sober during the holiday season. Julia has compiled their responses. Your job, Olis and Sam, is to guess what's on the list. Are you ready to play Sobriety Squabble?
Wait. What do we win?
The gift of sobriety, one day at a time. If you didn't drink today, you are a winner. Are you ready to play Sobriety Squabble?
But we want presents.
My presence is your present. Are you ready to play Sobriety Squabble?
I'm not really sure, Don, because the answers aren't in the script here. What's up?
That's because you have to guess. Okay, we have up on the board 7 answers that were provided by our Grapevine Lavinia area chairs.
And alternates.
And alternate chairs.
You do not get extra points for that, Olis.
I think we'll just alternate and see if you can guess what our survey says. And we'll start with Olis. How do you stay sober during the holiday season?
Have a service commitment. Come on, that's on the list.
Number 3 is help others do service. You've got that. Sam.
Go to meetings.
Go to lots of meetings. That's number 1.
See, I can do this without a cheat sheet.
Okay, let me try again. Call your sponsor.
Call your sponsor. Yes, that's on the list. Number 6, survey says, stay close to your sponsor.
Yeah, figures that'd be low on the list. We don't think to call our sponsor early on.
Oh, come on.
I'm going to go with have an exit plan.
Survey says, when going to a party, take your own car. Have a plan to get home. That's number 4 on the list.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Nice.
Okay, let's take a crack at it. I think number 2 is going to be have a sober buddy.
Good one.
Let's give it to you with have or host dinner with sponsors, sober friends. I'll say that's number 2. You got it.
Ding,
You
ding,
had to
ding,
give me a
ding.
lot of grace for that one. Okay. Sam,
Keep control of your drink.
that's a good one.
Keep control of your drink is not on the list.
Well, that's something you should do anyway, even if you're drinking alcohol, because people will roofie you.
That's true.
It is something you should do anyway. These are just things that weren't on our survey.
Okay. Sam, you're up. I'm pulling.
Let's see. I'm up. I'm up. Be mindful of desserts. They may have alcohol in them.
Very good. Very good.
No, that's not on the list. But we only have one left, and that's number 7. Reach out to newcomers.
That's a good one.
You've got all the rest of them. Go to lots of meetings, host dinner with your sponsor or sober friends, help others, do service. When going to a party, take your own car, have a plan to get home. Stay close to your sponsor and reach out to newcomers.
So another one that I was going to answer was to call people on your phone list.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great one.
You know, that important thing of you should always carry around a piece of hard candy.
Yes. Hard candy. I actually, as a newcomer, I had the Serenity Prayer 12-step card.
Oh.
And I always had that with me.
Yes.
Another one that strikes me is, in addition to that, having a plan to get home, when going, go with complete willingness to leave at any moment.
I'm going to add a cherry on top of that one because that one's really good. Find a marathon.
Yeah, marathon meetings.
There are so many marathon meetings, virtually and in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really a beautiful way to be a part of Alcoholics Anonymous.
I got an idea. Why don't we ask our listeners to write or call in with other suggestions that maybe we've missed here?
Oh, that's a great idea.
Thank you, Sam Bam.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Olis, for playing Sobriety Squabble.
Thank you for being our special guest, Don.
Thank you, Don. So how do we like flush a toilet? Is that how we get rid of Don now?
Oh, no!
It's the Tidy Bowl Man.
It's the Tidy Bowl Man.
Thanks to Julia D. and all of the Grapevine Lavinia chairs who contributed to our survey. Now, moving on, there's a conference advisory action.
Wait, stop the presses. What's that?
Well, the General Service Conference meets every April in New York. The conference is all our elected delegates and other representatives.
Oh, yeah. The conference is the voice of the fellowship. When they pass a motion called an advisory action, it just means go do this.
Yep. There's a conference advisory action to enhance AA's offering of our message to military members. We're going to follow directions with today's guest, Laslo C. in Halifax, Nova Scotia. He's an active AA member, a Canadian Armed Forces officer who helps peers with addiction and mental health issues, and he's a practicing member of the Islamic faith.
After Laslo, we'll answer a really tough history question sent to the Ask It basket. This one really required a bit of research.
And finally, our favorite amateur AA historian, Mily T, will bring us a history snippet. She's got a humorous early Grapevine article about sponsees and different types of birds.
But first, the news. So corny.
AA.org has posted a frequently asked questions page about the 2025 International Convention and Travel in Vancouver, Canada, July 3rd through the 6th, 2025. The page provides information on everything about the convention, including travel restrictions and where to get help. Go to AA.org and search International Convention FAQ.
Western North Carolina was devastated by Hurricane Helene. Here's Sam with a short interview with an active AA sober survivor.
My name is Alan. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is February 18th, 2012. I live in Cedar Mountain, North Carolina. My home group is the Cedar Mountain Group.
Alan, Hurricane Helene, there's a paragraph in the big book that comes to mind. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so, for we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role he assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think he would have us and humbly rely on him, does he enable us to match calamity with serenity. Matching calamity with serenity. Did that show up for you? And if so, how did that show up for you?
I've been in hurricane devastated areas as sober, dry drunk, wet drunk. Of course, wet drunk was a disaster. Now, I was a binge drinker, and so I would not drink after the hurricane restoration. They're long, hot days, and I'd seen people try to do that, and it was miserable for them or they would be sent home. As a dry drunk, then I was carrying around a lot of baggage that I didn't even know I had.
Mm-hmm.
Going through this Hurricane Helene, I was there with my wife and we left town, got a hotel room because we knew with all the rain, the 20 inches of rain, we did not want to be around all these tall trees. After the hurricane went through, my wife had never been through something like that. So what the program has taught me, it taught me more than just not drinking. It's all the other stuff that goes along with it. And for me, step 4, if it was not a spiritual awakening, it was a spiritual aha moment. I saw the baggage I was carrying around. So it allowed me to deal with impatience, deal with anger, deal with fear of failure, and looking for praise. If I did something right, I didn't have to have somebody pat me on the back. It was just do the next right thing and just keep on going.
After this hurricane passed through, were you able to stay connected with the fellowship of AA at a local level, at a larger level?
We were in Hendersonville. All communication was cut off. Matter of fact, for a number of hours, we could not get outside of a 2-mile radius. Cars are just going in circles. We said, we got to park. I could not even get back to my little town of Cedar Mountain. It was cut off. When we finally got back in there, all communication was down. After about 3 or 4 days, started seeing some texts come in or emails saying, are you all right? And it was just in the district that I'm in, District 71. Then it started growing some, another district reaching out. Are you guys okay? Yeah, we're okay. And then we started trying to reach out to another district in Asheville, which, by the way, Asheville got severe damage.
Yeah.
That's all the damage that you see on the news. And we were looking for somebody who was at a higher level. We tried the central office. The central office was closed. We got in touch with the area chair. They were able to get in contact with some people that we didn't have the contact names. After a couple more days, the central office came back into being partially open, which I will add, if you have a central office, embrace them. I was trying to find somebody who had more of a bird's eye view, and that was the central office.
So what did these conversations, what did they sound like? What was the result of them?
It was a verification that they're okay, telling them that I'm okay. Food is not a problem. The community is all pitching in. Restaurants are pitching in, to feed everybody. It was just making sure that people were okay and that they had a place to stay. Some of the people, they lost their homes. There were a lot of meeting locations. They lost all their chips. They lost all their books. So there was a lot of donations coming in to replenish that. And we won't know for a long time the extent of what all needs to be replaced at some of those meeting areas.
Certainly. Did you witness the communication of one alcoholic with another? I mean, talk about a reason to drink, especially someone new.
Going around, trying to find gasoline or food, run into people at a store. Someone comes out of the store and they speak to their spouse. There's no beer there. I know what they're saying, they're putting their priorities first.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was not in that boat.
I'm glad you weren't as well. I tell you, are meetings happening now? Are people able to find AA and connect with each other to help each other through the difficulties of this?
Yeah, meetings are taking place. It depends on where your meeting location is. My home group, which is only 2 miles from here, we were able to meet in there one day, but now it's closed. So we moved a half a mile up the road, got with our area registrar, who I had limited information, saying, hey, can you show this? This is our new temporary meeting location. She jumped right on it, got it changed, same way with the central office. And so people were making adjustments. There are some places, like I said, where they lost their meeting places. So it's like people are meeting in driveways, they're meeting in parking lots, they're meeting where they can. It's word of mouth. Alcoholics know how to get together.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
Stay in contact. Try to grow your AA network as much as possible. So if anybody does need a meeting, we're here. Which I will say that when we switched to our new location, that first meeting there was a newcomer in there. Not sure how they found that meeting because a newcomer usually does not have the meeting guide app. Maybe they were typing into their cell phone, how do I get sober? AA near me. So something came up, whether it was a central office website or the area registrar's website. Keep your meeting list up to date because you never know when somebody is going to need it. So I always considered that a priority. I considered it a matter of life and death.
Alan, our thoughts are with all of our friends in recovery and those who aren't in Western North Carolina. Alan, thank you.
All right. Take care, Sam.
The Plain Language Big Book is now available. It's intended to help readers better understand the book Alcoholics Anonymous, fondly called the Big Book by AA members. It's considered the basic text of the AA program of recovery. This new book describes AA's 12-step program in simpler language than the original book, which was published in 1939.
The Plain Language Big Book presents in a simpler language
the ideas contained in the Big Book, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Specific AA-related words and phrases used in the original 1939 book.
Vocabulary in the original book that may be dated or not familiar to readers.
And the core content of the original Big Book without member stories, often called the abridged edition.
The Plain Language Big Book is AA General Service Conference approved literature and is available now for $11.
And as always, AA encourages ordering our literature via your local distribution sources, groups, districts, intergroups, and central offices, as they play a vital role in local 12-step activities.
Well, friends, if we're meeting for the first time, my name is Laslo, and I'm a recovering alcoholic.
So, Laslo, let's get to know you a little bit. What was going on in your world that prompted you to go to an AA meeting?
I had a really wonky relationship with alcohol. I got to a point where I recognized that I was powerless over it. Elements of my life were absolutely out of control. I had a few moments of clarity that led me to seek help. I hadn't quite yet been in trouble at work, but it was going to happen. And as well, my marriage ended, and I needed to make my life, get it back on track.
Now, were you a member of the military at the time?
Yeah, I was certainly a member. I've been a member for about 33 years now. I got clean and sober almost 9 years ago. My sobriety date is the 23rd of November in 2015.
So is there anything different that you experienced being a member of the military and getting sober versus someone who is not?
Absolutely. And I'm speaking about my own personal experiences in the Canadian Forces. For me, I think that I would be unrecognizable even to myself. I often refer to that man that existed 9 years ago as old Laslo. It's a great example of a bad example. Alcoholism, it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who your dad was. It doesn't care what your religion is.
Yeah.
And it's not just the alcohol that we're typically struggling with. It's the other things that really matter. So our relationships, particularly with our family, our friends, obviously parts of our careers are probably impacted by this, and just impact to our well-being and serenity.
Alcohol is the great equalizer. It is wildly democratic, right? It doesn't matter race, creed. Everybody is subject to King Alcohol's lash. And so, do you think it was easier or do you think it was harder getting access to Alcoholics Anonymous as an enlisted person?
Okay, alcoholism doesn't discriminate. And so we should see a natural balance of equal parts, men and women, all ethnicities, officers and enlisted alike in the rooms. And we don't. I think that has a lot to do with internal pressures and not external pressures. And the reason why I say that is at the time that I reached out for help within the Canadian Forces, I was working in a field where I was working with and reporting on all of the deaths that occurred in our area of responsibility. And that was about 1.8 million square miles. And I came to a point where I just stopped sleeping. I called my supervisor and I told him that I needed to get help for alcohol and that I was going to be doing it the very next day. His response was eloquent. He said, "Whatever you need, Laslo." And every supervisor ever since, what I do now with supervisors I'm wide open about my program.
Yeah.
We work by attraction, not promotion.
Yeah.
We allow the word to spread that there are people within the military community who deeply care. That means that over the years, I've had several members, men, women, other Muslims, ask for help. That is a very quick and very painless process. My line of work is very committed to getting access for people who ask for help. We see it as strength. We get them plugged into our mental health services right away. Not only was it easy for me, it's very easy for others. I think that since I began my journey 9 years ago, it's gotten even easier.
Hmm.
Within the Canadian Forces, we recognize that in 2016, approximately 42% of our releases were due to alcohol, drugs, gambling. We needed to do something about it. So we stood up the Sentinel program. It's managed by the chaplaincy branch. And so if I'm working alongside somebody who's navigating rough water, like a divorce or a parent who's passed or even struggling with some issues, we provide a little bit of listening ear and support. And if it's serious enough, we assist them with getting them plugged into our mental health services. This whole process requires a great deal of trust in being authentic and vulnerable, often at times with supervisors who have limited understanding of their own regarding it, but no one knows better about how to quit smoking, say, than someone who's smoked. Those of us within the program truly understand what it means to be in the program.
Indeed.
Yeah.
If there's a member of your military who is experiencing fear about asking for help, what could this do to my career? Things like that. Is that fear founded?
In my own personal journey over the last 9 years, I've not yet had one obstacle to getting assistance. There's a meeting nearby my workplace, and there's times when I attended in uniform. I'm also a member of my Muslim military community. We talk about the lessons and learning there. Often for those of us who are in the rooms, I think we believe that God brings us to AA and AA brings us to God. And so we start to live our lives along spiritual lines. And I've got such a great relationship with my coworkers right now as a direct result of just simply walking the path of AA, being open with them, admitting when I've made mistakes. You have to understand that as an officer, with one slip of the pen, you can make a huge mistake that can really affect people. Even recently, something like that happened. I went in to see my boss and I said, sir, I made a big mistake. We need to call that back. And he was so graceful and so good about it. So I'm just really direct about standing tall and standing with integrity now that I'm clean and sober. I believe there might be some personal reservations from individual people about whether or not getting help will affect their career. And I say that because I work on data. So if I look at the demographics in the rooms, we should be seeing an equal number of men and women, all ethnicities, high ranks, low ranks. And right now we're not. So that tells me there should be solutions in order to make sure that there's no perception of stigma whatsoever about getting access to any help that I would need. So if I broke my arm, you guys wouldn't think twice of me going down and getting my arm set by a doctor. And our minds are the same way. It's just something that needs a little help and a little attention. Once we find the help that we need, we get our lives back.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you, as a member of the Islamic faith, have navigated Alcoholics Anonymous, and has it made a difference?
Well, absolutely. I thank you for asking me a little bit about my faith. Part of our program in AA is to, seek an understanding of our higher power as we understand him or her, it or they. I know that some of the language is a bit dated right now, but, it was written 80 years ago, and we can give some grace to the thought process at that time, right?
Yep.
I'm very open about my program of AA within the Islamic faith because I feel on a personal level that we could be doing better. I feel that there's probably a lot of shame and guilt attached with alcohol dependence, and it can be very hard to reach out. My culture is predicated on a lot of group public image and how that image affects the family and so on. And so these are just perceptions. The reality is, I feel strongly that my community wants to be practicing my faith, not from the perspective of perfection, but progress. Each and every time that I talk to somebody within the Islamic faith about being in AA, they see this as a sign from God as well, that God has taken the time to warm my heart to get me involved in a program where not only will I be getting better, but in the end, I'll be helping others down the path as well.
Others in the faith and others in your family, right?
We're always striving from within to improve our relationship with our higher power. And that comes down to recognizing that our relationship with our higher power is actually found with our fellow pedestrians in life. And once we're treating them with dignity and respect, then that's truly a sign of a Muslim who is walking the path.
Laslo, thank you so much for that. If someone in the military and the Canadian Armed Forces does want help, do they just do like I would and go to an AA meeting, or is there more to do?
There's actually a raft of things someone can do. So one of the things that they could do as an option is they could talk to somebody they know that's in Alcoholics Anonymous, like myself. The other thing they could do is they could check out a meeting. At some point, it involves having a moment. They have a moment of clarity where they're trying to seek help. And it's really important for us during those times to be gentle and ginger and to see the signs early enough. And, a lot of the people that I work with are, they're senior members in the enlisted ranks, and they're careerists and they're technical advisors, and they're really good at their job, but they've never experienced anyone who truly understood what it meant to grapple with alcohol. And this has always been something that's plagued our organization. We had a work hard, play hard mentality, 3 decades ago. And today we are a professional branch of the federal public service. And so we don't tolerate alcohol misconduct. I feel grateful for being the person that can be the connection for them.
Yes.
And we get them the help that they need. Anybody who steps forward from help gets it, and they get it without judgment, and they get it without terms and conditions. They just get help.
I think that's the way it should be. Laslo, thank you so much for joining us. We're really happy that you could.
And what a great conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
So we received a voicemail from Carl with a great question for the Ask It Basket.
Hello. Hey, I'm an alcoholic, and my problem is Carl. I live in West Point, Utah, and my sobriety date is January 29, 1978. I have a question for the Ask It Basket. I have been around for a while, obviously, and I don't remember when I started hearing things like, who you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, let it stay here to protect our anonymity. And I was just wondering if you had any idea as to when that started, where it started, how prevalent it is. I've heard it in different places around the country, probably around the world. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Carl. It's really great to hear from you. We really appreciate you calling in this question. It's a doozy. We asked our executive assistant, Najeen, at the General Service Office to track down an answer, and it took a while. The question bounced from desk to desk as folks tried to find someone with a clue to its origins. It ended up in archives, and we received an answer from April, our special collections archivist. April writes, the earliest reference to the phrase we have is in a November 1964 Box 459. It seems that a group sent it in. The article is on page 3 in a column called Group Soup Gems from Our Mail. The Box 459 article reads, who you see here, what you see here, when you leave here, let it stay here. That's printed inside a box, and below it reads, a large card like that reminds members of the Salmon, Idaho group of our tradition of anonymity. Have any other groups spawned any good original ideas lately to share with the rest of us? And that's a really good question there, Olis.
I want to invite all of the listeners to do what Carl did. If you have anything you've heard in a meeting that you think is original, we'd love to hear about it. Let us know by voicemail or email. Go to aagrapevine.org/podcast.
I'm really glad that we get to explore like this too, and that we have this fantastic resource at the General Service Office to help us find answers to these kinds of questions. Carl, thank you again for calling that in. We really appreciate it. All right, and now we'll hop in the Wayback Machine and travel back to the early days of AA. It's time for A History Snippet with Mily T.
Mily, you've been searching through the Grapevine archives again, haven't you?
Yes, I found this great message from August of 1960. It's called Pigeons on the Glass, Alas, by Anonymous in New Jersey.
Drunks you have known.
They call them pigeons, these wily fly-by-day and night creatures whose habitat ranges from the plush cocktail lounge to the bottle-littered doorway, and whose plumage varies from the peacock's panoply to something resembling a plucked ptarmigan. Granted, they are birds of a feather, the name seems ill-considered and is one which I have studiously avoided in my own thinking. Here's why. When I was an AA fledgling of just a few self-satisfied sober months, they sent me out to carry the message. Right away, I found a bird who was receptive. Everything I told him, he agreed with. In fact, he would go around repeating my ideas, word for word. The AA slogans were duck soup for him. When he gave his first AA talk, his case history was brief, very confused, and liberally laced with all the trite and true AA expressions. The part where he told how the program worked for him was a masterpiece. I knew it was. I had given it myself 3 days before. After the meeting, a solid citizen came up to me and said,
Better watch that pigeon of yours. That was a nice talk he gave, but he had some pretty weird ideas.
But the solid citizen was wrong. This guy was no pigeon. He was a parrot. Trouble with parrots is you can't stay sober by repeating what other people say. One day this parrot paid a visit to his old roost, and a genial vulture said,
Joe, you've been a good boy for a long time now. One drink won't hurt you.
And Joe Parrot said,
Yeah, I've been a good boy for a long time now. One drink won't hurt me.
I haven't seen him since. Next, I tried to sponsor a mockingbird. This character disagreed with everything I said and would polish off each suggestion with a wisecrack. The 12 steps and the slogans were sounding boards for his ego, and within 2 weeks, he had discovered everything that was wrong with the program. Then I got a bird who admitted,
I'm having a problem with drinking, but I don't believe I'm a real alcoholic.
He came to the meetings and listened to the case histories, and each time it was the same thing.
That never happened to me. I never got that bad.
I tried to point out that this was a progressive disease, and that the things that had never happened to him would happen if he continued to drink, but he couldn't see it. And all of a sudden, I got a mental picture of an ostrich with his head buried in the sand. So I waited for the inevitable. Sure enough, within a short time, he had lost his license because of drunken driving, was fired from his $13,500 a year job, and was thrown out of the house by his ever-loving wife. Deciding that he had hit bottom at last, I moved in. And I discovered that an ostrich can run faster than any bird you ever saw. I haven't caught him yet. Then I netted a real tame species. I call his kind the mourning dove. He looked so sad when I saw him that I knew he was ready for the program, so I told him about the first drink and I took him to meetings and he got sober. But he never stopped crying. The seats were too hard. The speakers were too long-winded. His wife was always on his back. His boss expected too much. So one by one, the various species came and flew the coop. There were the jailbirds, whose wings got clipped every so often, but they managed to fly in between times. And the cuckoos, who were only too glad to leave their problems in my nest. And then one night, as I sat in a meeting, counting the remnants of my scattered flock, I rediscovered some basic truths. Call it a spiritual awakening. Number 1.
I admitted that I was powerless over alcohol, my fine-feathered friends' alcoholic problems as well as my own, and that I could no more manage their lives than they could.
Number 2.
I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore my hen-headed friends to sanity. After all, hadn't he done it for me?
Number 3.
I made a decision to turn my nestlings, including myself, over to the care of God as I understood him.
And with this, I learned something which was one of the cornerstones of our AA program. Nothing I could ever do or say would change another alcoholic one iota. But everything I had done or said had its effect on at least one individual. One drunk had gotten sober. One alcoholic was staying sober 24 hours at a time. One faltering flicker was stumbling painfully through the 12 steps, learning a little something in the process. Me. And I wasn't the one who was doing it. It was the same higher power working with some mighty, unlikely assistance. My birds of passage, successful and unsuccessful. In each of them, I was enabled to see a little of myself as I really was. And I realized that all the so-called 12-step work I was doing was not being done on them, but on me. And so it goes. The various species and subspecies continue to flit in and out of our fellowship. Some continue again and again to try their wings in open defiance of the alcoholic law of gravity, which says that every drunk that gets high has to come down. Harder each time. Eventually, some of them seem to develop a homing instinct and find sanctuary in the fellowships of AA, like this pigeon.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next Monday.
Or whenever you're listening. And felicitations to all of our fastidious listeners.
See, she got that on the first take, Dawn.
Ha!
Thank you to everyone who supports this podcast with a subscription to the Grapevine magazine, in print or in the Grapevine app. Your support makes the half-hour variety hour possible. I'm at the very wit's end. Cuckoo. At my home group, my bestie was complaining,
You know, my husband doesn't treat me as he should.
and for that, you really ought to be thankful.
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half-Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine, Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org, including our app and how to get in touch with us. Find us on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to know more about AA, visit aa.org or search online for Alcoholics Anonymous and your city.